This is the Fantasy Football Unlimited podcast with your host, Kevin Murray.
Welcome to the Fantasy Football Unlimited podcast. On this episode, we have a great guest. He covers both college and NFL football. He's also a head coach in high school, and it's from Matthew Berry's Fantasy Life. It's Gene Clemons. Welcome to the show, Coach.
Hey, thank you for having me. I'm excited to talk a little bit, talk some fantasy, talk some football and all things, high school, college, professional. It's all on the board. I'm ready for it.
I love it. Well, I love having guests on here, sharing their stories, sharing their backgrounds, sharing the passion for fantasy sports. Obviously, consumers of this content, they love the game of fantasy. And obviously, the people out there creating content around fantasy, it's fun to kind of learn where they came from, how they got to where they are. With Matthew Berry's Fantasy Life, what is your role over there, and how did that opportunity come about?
I'm an analyst over there. I do fantasy content. I was delving more into sports betting last year, not as much this year. And so mostly fantasy content as a writer and as an on-air analyst.
And when it comes to Fantasy Life, what are some of your favorite things? Like, I guess from a consumer perspective, what do you like about what comes out of that brand?
I'll tell you the good thing, or the thing that I see, is that there's a lot of fantasy companies out there, and not a lot of them have a diverse group of people. Like, they might be diverse in like their own personalities, but not necessarily diverse in how they go about their fantasy setups, like how they go about their rankings, how they go about their starts and sits. I think we have over here a great like contrast of styles. We've got old school people, we've got new school, we've got people who are statisticians, we have people like myself that come more from the practical world. And I think that's what I like, is that juxtaposition of, this is the way that someone thinks it should be done versus this is the way that someone else. And now they've got to come together and fuse that. And what it does for the consumer is it allows you to either pick and choose who you want to follow because they more align with what your philosophy is, or that it allows you to get like a really well-versed rainbow pot of gumbo and see if it tastes right for you. I know for instance, like our weekly rankings. Our weekly rankings are done by several members of Fantasy Life, and they all come out, and then you get a consensus ranking. So it doesn't matter if Kendall Valenzuela thinks that wide receiver 1 is Jamar Chase, and Ian Harditz thinks wide receiver 1 is Trey McBride, even as a tight end. He's wide receiver 1. We're going to get like a everybody's things together, and then it's going to spit out a number and tell you, hey, this is really like kind of what everybody thinks if you put it all together. I think that's some of the best part about Fantasy Life.
I love it. A rainbow pot of gumbo. That is a phenomenal description. I love it. Now, obviously, you wear a lot of hats. I mean, you got a New York Giants podcast, right? You're a head coach for a high school football team. How do you balance all this? And talk a little bit about everything you got going on.
Well, for me, I think one of the things is that I don't really know any other way. Like, I don't know any other world. I grew up, and growing up, I was heavily involved in athletics. I was kind of a nerd in school, and I did a lot of performing arts, singing, acting, things of that nature. So I've always had my hands in a bunch of different things. In high school, I would go sing in the school choir, drop down off the back riser, run to the gym, and get ready for a basketball game, right? Like, that was my life. And so as I got older, I played 3 sports in college for 2 years before my body essentially said, hey, calm down a little bit. But even there, when I was in college, I performed in the theater. I performed in the chorus. I was on the football team. I was working heavily in media, writing for the newspaper, working in the TV broadcast studio, doing other like little side projects that anything that came to my mind. We had a little skit show that we used to do. I had a radio show where 2 hours a week I would go on and spin records, right? So it was just always something. I don't know any other way. And so when it became time for me to get out into the quote unquote real world, as you know, opportunities as a journalist, because I was a journalism major. So I came up through the old school. You need sources, you need to vet them, you need to be able to get things on the record. That's what I came up through. But I also came up with teachers who realized that, hey, this digital space is becoming a thing. So prepare yourself for it. But there wasn't a lot of money at the bottom level of media when you first start out. So I was a teacher. I was a teacher and I was a coach, and I loved doing it. But I kept my foot in media. I kept my foot in journalism. I was writing for local publications, high school sports reviews, college sports reviews, college breakdowns. I did everything, hard news to features to special reports. I did everything. And so as the years kind of went along, I started cultivating my own ways of getting my face out there and my personality out there through my podcast. That's when I started my Talk Spicy podcast, which then people started to see and say, hey, I really like this person's personality, and I like the fact that his thought process isn't the exact same as everybody else's thought process. And then on top of that, I still had the background of journalism. Like I am a journalist. So when I go into any type of story, I'm looking for the angle. I don't know how to just enjoy stuff for the sake of enjoyment. Everything that I watch, that I see, I'm always thinking, what's the headline? What's the angle? What audience does this speak to? That's just the way my brain works. And so from that, I get to do all of these things, and, outside of some sleep that gets lost, I enjoy it.
I love it. No, that's so cool. I mean, it makes sense. That background kind of tells the story, how you're involved in so many things and how you can manage them. Talk about coaching high school football. What's the experience like with that? How long have you been the head coach, and what do you get out of that experience?
So I've been a head coach off and on, man, throughout my career. I've been a head coach at maybe 4, 5 different stops, maybe over the course of my career, some with varying success, right?
Sure.
But I've been a football coach since I graduated college in 2004. So since then I've been coaching. So 20 years, on the sidelines coaching football. I've coached basketball, I coached track. I've been all over the place, but football has been the steady force. Mostly because football gives you the opportunity to compartmentalize. So if I'm the defensive line coach, or if I'm the quarterback's coach, it doesn't really matter that much what anybody else on the coaching staff is doing. I can lose myself in that world. Whereas in basketball, you kind of have to be aligned because you're working with everybody at the same time. There's no more big man's coach and guards coach. You're teaching everyone everything. So I've been able to do football consistently throughout that time. It is, if I would say anything, I would say football is my mistress, because growing up, or football is my love, my wife, but basketball is my mistress. And if I'm being honest, was probably my first love.
Sure.
And then when you're growing up and you realize, oh, you're 6'3" 6'4", that's cool on basketball if you're a point guard, but not if you're a power forward. But it looks really good on the football field. You kind of start to shift the interest, over to football. And then I think the fun part about football is that it's the ultimate chess game, right? Unlike anything else, you need every part working together in order to succeed. The individual like standout athletically is never going to be able to just do it by himself. See the Cincinnati Bengals. Chase, Jamar Chase is undoubtedly, in my brain, the best wide receiver in the league.
Yeah.
He can't do it by himself. He needs everyone else in order to set the table for him.
How about guiding those young kids these days? Like, I mean, is that a huge part of what, the joy that you take away from coaching football?
No, not at all. I hate that. No,
Okay.
I'm just kidding. I'll be honest with you, because I don't ever believe in blowing smoke up anyone's glutes. Like, for me, the enjoyment of coaching is much less than the enjoyment of mentoring, which I can do anywhere. Like, I don't need the football field to mentor. It just gives me the opportunity to get the most guys in a group at one time so I can mass mentor, right? Like, that's the biggest thing. But it is getting harder. It's getting harder to be a coach these days because the expectation levels are ridiculous, even at the high school realm. And then the players aren't as realistic as you would like them to be. Everybody thinks they're going to the NFL or the NBA. Everybody thinks they're going to be a Division I athlete. And in reality, there's a reason why these people are the 1% of the 1%. And that's because it's hard. And even if you're really, really good, there's another 1,000 people out there just as good as you are that might have an inch on you in height or a tenth of a second on you in speed. And now you're left out. So with all of those things, I like to be able to give people game, give young men game about the world and how to navigate the world. And the first one, funny enough, is a coach that's not just all about the football in the sense of I've figured out how to be football vocational with my life. So I don't have to play the game in order for the game and my skills and my talents and my knowledge of the game to support me for a living. And so that's what I really try to get across to these young men and young women in sports, is that you don't have to play the sport until you're 50. That's almost impossible. But you can be sport vocational until you die.
That's great. That's a great message. Now, obviously, you love sports. Yeah, you've got a passion for it. You said it. You kind of started early. What were who were your favorite teams growing up? Favorite players growing up?
So like early on, we moved around a lot. I don't think I had a favorite team when I was really young. But I did immediately resonate with like players and their performances. I can remember my very first guy being like marveling at was that wide receiver class with Jerry Rice in it, right? So that era of football, when I started to really start getting a better understanding of sports, my favorite teams were all the teams that were local to me because that's what I had access to. So in Tampa, Florida, I was a Buccaneers fan. I was a New York Yankees fan because Yankees A-ball was down in Tampa. That's where they did spring training at.
Yeah.
We got free tickets. George Steinbrenner is heavily involved in the Tampa Bay area. So I became a baseball fan the same time that Derek Jeter got drafted.
Oh, wow.
So my entire baseball experience was falling in love with a team and a player that, to me, could do no wrong on and off the field, if you know what I mean. Like, he was a fantasy winner on the field. He was a fantasy winner off the field.
Yeah.
And so, like, the Buccaneers, the Florida State Seminoles, those are the football teams that I followed. And then it was the Yankees, North Carolina basketball, the Lakers in basketball. And those are kind of the teams that I still follow if I'm following. But I'm really more just a fan of sports now.
Sure. Now, I would imagine you liked Warwick Dunn with Florida State and Tampa.
Yeah, no, it was Warwick Dunn was one of my favorite players. It's interesting when you're in Tampa and you're growing up as a teenager into a young adult and you're around the players. And so, like, Warren Sapp, Derek Brooks, like, we played basketball at the same places,
Wow.
I knew Riddell Anthony. Riddell Anthony was a guy who, for the University of Florida, was a guy who I was so like enamored with as a football player because I played football with Darrell Jackson, in basketball in middle school. Then Darrell Jackson went over and I played against him in high school, but I played with both of his twin brothers in high school. And so when he went to Florida, he would come home and work us out. And we could not believe what he could do in their workout versus what we were doing as high schoolers, right? So just like this understanding of watching pro athletes be so close to you. Warrick Dunn being 5'8" and looking like I looked at him and went, we have high school players that look more impressive than you. But watching what he does on the football field, it was phenomenal.
I love it. Now, Daryl Jackson, you talking the Seahawks?
Yeah,
Daryl Jackson.
Seahawks, Daryl Jackson.
Okay, I'm a Seattle guy, so yeah. I mean, he was a phenomenal football player.
I believe he just went into like the top 50 for the Seattles. They did like a celebration, of the top 50, and he was on there. They just honored him and all those other guys. But no, it was like those were the guys that I came up with. And so, like, I wore number 15 because Rito Anthony wore number 15.
Nice.
And so Rito Anthony and Vince Carter both wore 15, so I wore 15, right? So
yeah,
it's interesting how that happens with your fandom as a teenager.
Yeah, it's always fun to also reminisce on it, and I like hearing these names. It's fun to hear who people were fans of. Brings up a lot of memories for me, for sure. But from a fandom perspective, do you recall like a moment like it was the toughest loss for you as a sports fan?
Yeah, and I forget which year it is, but the Buccaneers that year, with Emmanuel, with the catch that they said wasn't a catch, that was clearly a catch, that went on. We ended up losing that game. And I say we because I was so invested at that time. The Buccaneers end up losing that game, and that game cost Tony Dungy his job with the Buccaneers. Wow. And then I had to watch as John Gruden comes in with this team that has been built in the image and likeness of Tony Dungy, and then I had to watch him not win any other way except for the way that Tony Dungy was winning games. Yeah. But for him to be held up to this high esteem, like, it really was devastating for me as a fan, because I believe that Tony Dungy deserved to win a championship with the Buccaneers and finish his career as the Buccaneers head coach. He should have only been the head coach of one team. I was happy when he won a championship with the Colts, but it wasn't the same. Like, he should have been a Buck for life. He should have never gone anywhere else. That was the irrational thinking of the front office and the ownership at that time to go after a guy who was a whole lot of talk but not a whole lot of substance in John Gruden when it came to what he was doing for what the Bucs needed. And so, like, from that standpoint, I look at it and I go, man, it was a devastating point for me because we lost, and I lost a coach that I was like a really big fan of. But also, it brought in the reality of sports, right? And how much of a business it is. And sometimes it's not about how good you are or about how good you are to people. It's about the bottom line.
Yeah, no, it's tough reality, but it's true. And I could see being a fan of Coach Dungy just because of the way he is off the field, his mentorship, I can imagine as a hometown fan of a team, he'd be a coach I wouldn't ever want to lose, for sure. So on the flip side, though, do you have a favorite memory in sports?
Oh gosh, I predicted the Super Bowl, and not like on some they'll win it. Like, no, I was like, hey, we didn't get there. I remember the year that they didn't go was the year it was in Tampa Bay. And then I was like, no, this next year they're going to win. I said they were ahead of schedule last year. This next year they were going to win. I was in college, and I said, if they're in the championship, I'm going home. I don't care what it looks like at these schools. And sure enough, they made it, and I was in the car hoping that my little beater didn't break down, trying to get home from school to be there because I just wanted to be around Tampa when they won and got back. It was a great celebration. And if you know anything about Tampa Bay, we know how to put a party on.
No, I think that's kind of fun to see it. You can have that vision and then to see it come home. That's pretty special. That's what sports is all about. So when it comes to fantasy sports, when did you discover fantasy sports?
I was on fantasy sports early, like super early. I was on fantasy baseball before fantasy football even became like a thing. I just always, well, first off, I always looked at myself as someone who wanted to be inside the game, right? And so I remember specifically writing down all of the names of the people who got drafted. I used to keep notebooks of all the people who were drafted and all of the teams that they were drafted. So that tells you I'm old enough to remember before computers just had that information. And I used to keep books of it. Every year I watched the draft live, write down the names, write down the teams. I wanted to keep track of who was doing what. We used to take little bets on who was going to perform better. So when fantasy sports came along, it was like, oh, this is now a regulated place in order to be able to do those things. And so that was really appealing to me. So I was on fantasy sports early. And it's interesting because what started as, hey, you've got to watch the game and understand who these players are and matchups, took a turn in fantasy where people started relying strictly on statistics, right? And what are the stats saying? What are the probabilities? And it moved from qualitative data to more quantitative data. And I can specifically remember going, there's a hole there, right? There's a hole there because you can know the stats can tell you everything you need to know about what this player should do, but it doesn't factor in the fact that player is like on a contract year. It doesn't factor in the fact that player just got divorced. It doesn't factor into him and the quarterback beefing or the philosophy and that surrounds the team. One of the greatest examples of that to me right now is the Philadelphia Eagles. Fantasy people want them to throw the ball because they want A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith to get the ball. But they threw the ball last game and they lost. They gave Saquon Barkley 6 carries in the game, and they decided we were going to throw the ball, and that ended up in a loss. Why? Because throwing's not their identity. Their identity is running, and when it doesn't work or when it doesn't manufacture the points like they should, they can throw off the run. But when you just come out there and throw, hey, they can put up yards, but it's not going to be as efficient. It's not going to wear the clock down. It's not going to take time off like it does when they run it. So for me, it was early on and really like falling in love with the minutia of the game that doesn't always rely on the stats and doesn't always rely on the qualitative data, and finding a nice mesh for both of them.
That's a great that's a great point. Obviously, there's an in between, right? There's an edge kind of in between. If you're dug in and in the details, I like what you just said. That makes a lot of sense. There's a lot more to the story than just the numbers or just the analysis of gameplay. So that's great point for sure. So with fantasy, right now, like how many leagues are you in?
No clue. I mean, if we're being honest, if I had to ballpark it, I'd say like 20.
Okay.
Right? Like, but it's probably more. Sure. Like I'm sure that there's a league that I did that I'm probably not thinking of, but I do spend a good amount of time on Thursday and then on Sunday morning while I'm doing shows, actually going through and updating all of my fantasy leagues so that I don't give anyone like a bad experience.
Sure. Now, is there one league though that is the most important to you?
I think everybody has their home league, right? Like everybody has their home league with all their friends. And so before I was working in fantasy or working in sports media, like it's like on a more like front facing level, my friends and I, we had as young adults, in our early to mid 20s, we started a fantasy league. And for the most part, we've been able to keep that league together with some people who've popped in and out. But for the most part, we've been able to keep that league together. So that league, to me, means the most, even though monetarily it's probably the least. And like the only people looking for it are us, right? Yeah. Like there's no craziness to it. There's nothing that we don't do anything wild. It's just I get a chance to every year have something with all of my friends and people that I hold in high esteem as people, you know, and we get to come together and do this. So that's probably the one that means the most to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody, you know, you get that home league with the people you love the most and care about the most and stay connected with. That's what it's about. It's about those connections. It's about, you know, just staying in each other's lives and playing a game and talking trash and having fun doing it. I love that you have that. That's what I want for most people. I want people to enjoy that home league experience. And I want them to have rivals too. So for you, like, who's the one person that you gotta beat when you play them? Like, who's your biggest rival in fantasy?
Biggest rival in fantasy. I don't know. I don't know if I have a biggest rival in fantasy. My good friend CJ, Chris James, who works in the business as well. One of my colleagues over at Football Game Plan. I like beating him because he's really good. He is the epitome of what happens when you put a statistical savant, like when you put a statistical savant brain in a 1% athlete.
Okay.
Like, he is so smart about the game and probabilities and statistics. Like, I have to double check every trade when he tries to trade with me, because he's going to offer me a trade that's going to benefit me. And in my brain, I'm going, okay, how are you getting over? Because I know you've got some type, and undoubtedly there's usually some type of line, some type of thread that I haven't noticed yet that he's already gone to, like 4 weeks, 5 weeks down the line, that he's trying to set up, and he knows that it's going to work for him in the end. And sometimes I'll just have to be like, listen, I don't know what you're on, but no, keep it to yourself.
I knew there'd be somebody that, you know, that gets that competitive juice going.
Yeah, no, he's so great. Like, he's so smart about it. And I think we should champion this more as men. We should champion bigging up and shouting out people who are just really, really good at what they do, even if it's in the same line or same realm as what we do. Because again, the way I operate in fantasy isn't heavily on the statistical side. It's definitely more on the qualitative side. Like, this is how the game is supposed to go. And so that's why these things are supposed to happen. Like, he's very, very much analytical with his approach. He just understands that side as well. And so, you know, I applaud him all the time. Not when we're playing each other. And if he sees this, I'm lying right now. I don't respect anything that you're doing. I hope all the worst things for you in fantasy, my friend. Nothing but the worst.
I love it. You do bring up a good point too, a good tip for players out there. When it comes to trades in fantasy, you look at the other person's roster, find out something that is appealing to them, and then work your angle. I love that. So, like, playing the game, you know, obviously there's a lot of different formats in fantasy. Do you have specific settings, formats that you like to play?
So I used to be big on the traditional, format. You know, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a flex, a defense, and a kicker. I still believe that is the purest form of fantasy. And I like that because I feel like it gives you the most of the entire game, right? Because we don't do a lot of leagues with individual defensive players. Like, this gives you the format that gives you a better understanding of everything. But I understand that a lot of people think it's antiquated because of the kickers and the defenses and how defenses are scored. I really would love for somebody to do, by the way, sidebar, I'd love for someone to do an overhaul of how defense is scored. I think it's super flawed. Scoring points is so much a negative on the defense, and I think it should be a lot more of a combination of points and yardage and first downs and things of that nature. Where it needs to be looked at. But that used to be my favorite, and I still appreciate it for its pureness. But I love me a good super flex.
Yeah.
I love a good super flex because you can't always get two quarterbacks that you can rely on. And if you can't get two quarterbacks that are going to give you maximum value, how are you deciding which player to put in that flex spot that you can use another quarterback in? Like, who do you think is going to give you better production than 17 plus points, which is what you're normally getting from a quarterback, right?
Yeah.
So it's like for the super flex, a lot of people are just more like, oh, it's a default 2 quarterback league. I said, no, it's not, because depending upon how many people you're playing with, you might not have the luxury of a quarterback that can get you 15, 16, 17, 18 plus points a game. Yeah. You might have somebody that's just out there like what if you end up with, the Bengals, right? And now you had a guy who, for all intents and purposes, is one of the best quarterbacks in the league. He gets you tons of fantasy points. He's not the highest because he doesn't give you a lot of rushing upside, but he's giving you what you need in order to survive in Superflex. And then he gets hurt. And now you go and get his backup and you see what's going on there, right?
Yeah.
Or you try to go get his backup and someone has savvily picked up his backup so that you don't have the opportunity to go get it. What do you do now, right? We've had several quarterbacks who've been out in this league already this year, right? We've had to work with the backups in Washington. What happens if you drafted Russell Wilson and now Russell Wilson is benched, right? What happens if you drafted Joe Flacco to be your quarterback number 2 and now Joe Flacco's benched, but somebody already grabbed Dylan Gabriel because they knew Flacco was going to get benched and they stabbed Dylan Gabriel away? What are you doing? And so that's the strategy of it that I love so much. How many of these high-level guys can I get that I would be comfortable enough to put into a flex spot when I can't put a quarterback in there?
Yeah, that's a great point. There's so much strategy with Superflex, and it starts on draft day, right? It kind of creates a little chaos, just getting that lineup together. Because some people are going to be reaching early for quarterbacks, and it's not necessarily a reach, but when you time your selection of a quarterback matters, and then, like you said, injuries, bye weeks, benchings, throughout the season, there's strategy there that you have to kind of add to your fantasy IQ. Which makes a difference.
What's your favorite? What's your favorite?
Yeah, I mean, I play in a lot of different leagues, so I personally I like variety. But home league, I like the traditional, one quarterback for like a home redraft league. I like multiple flex spots. For Dynasty, definitely Superflex for sure. I think Superflex is the most fun with Dynasty, so I like a variety. If I had to make one league, I'd go one quarterback, 2 running back, 2 receiver, a few flex. I like what you said about defense. I think that is true. Like if you have a defensive position on your squad or in your league, it is good to tinker with those settings, because I hate it when someone gives up a ton of points, but there aren't negatives to bring that down, and they're getting all these points from maybe sacks or turnovers where they didn't maybe deserve it. But like you said, yards, first downs, fourth down stops. There's a lot of different ways that you can, mess with the defensive settings and get it a little more fun, a little less lucky, maybe.
Yeah. There's a lot of happenstance that goes into your defensive score. Like, I don't even like the fact that most leagues have a set defensive score that you start with. And then it decreases. I don't like that. It's like, what?
Yeah.
Like, no. Like, tabulate mine as it goes. Or if it has to be at the end of the game, cool. Like, I just want to see something built a little bit better. Because to me, if you score 21 points, my defense is I'm probably down to like 5 points on my defense, right?
Yeah.
But if you scored 21 points and 14 of them came off of you having turnovers and getting the ball on the 1 yard line, did my defense really suck, or were you just lucky? Right. Yeah. So I don't like that. And I feel like there should be a way to quantify touchdowns. Like Like touchdown drives should matter more. You know, did we hold them to 3 points on this drive, or did we allow a touchdown? Like, I think those things should matter more.
I love it. Well, let's figure this out, right? Let's change the game. We'll figure this out together. So with playing fantasy, do you have like an all-time favorite moment playing this great game?
Oh gosh, no. I don't think I have an all-time favorite moment. I just really enjoy the moments where we get to be together, right? Where you get multiple people in a league in the same place at one time. Yeah. Like, because undoubtedly something's going to happen that makes one person happy and the other person crash out. And I'm here for the crash outs, baby. I'm on tilt, and I'm throwing the chicken wing across the room, or I messed up my beer, or like just something. Because it's fun. It's fun to see those visceral reactions, to see the reactions of joy, right? Like I like seeing it all. So being in person to me is the most fun. In person drafts, so much fun. Like to me, those are the memory makers. The in-person drafts. What happened? What'd you do before? What'd you do after? What was the reaction when you snaked somebody for a draft pick date that you knew they had on their radar? You know, how did they respond? Like I love Scott Fish Bowl. I know everybody loves Scott Fish Bowl. This was my first year to be able to be involved in Scott Fish Bowl, but I wasn't at a live draft. And so like my goal is to be at a Scott Fish Bowl live draft, maybe even a couple of them, you know, and get to experience meeting new people, having new experiences, and enjoying the ambiance that comes with something that's not only fun to just meet people, but for a great cause as well.
Yeah, no, that's what it's about. I mean, fantasy to me, again, it's that home league. It's throwing the chicken wing. It's spilling the beer. It's the stories. I think that especially, look at a season like this. There's so many injuries. There's so many reasons for people to get dejected playing the game. Like, you got to have that foundation of fun that, you truly get it, competing with friends and family or whatnot, enjoying the best aspects of the game, because the game can be frustrating, but if you're doing it with a bunch of people that you enjoy, you get the most out of it. So I love that. And you bring up the community. The fantasy football community is phenomenal. Scott Fish Bowl live drafts, highly recommend you get into one of those, because those are so cool. It's so cool to get into, especially if you find one local. You realize like there's a lot of people that that I'm colleagues with or in this community with that are close to me, and you get to meet new people. And there's events like the Fantasy Football Expo. Highly recommend getting to that. That's a great way to meet people as well. So lots to be excited about in this community. But I think the core of this fantasy experience is the community, your home league community. It's just enjoying the game as it's meant to be, right?
Yeah, and how do you turn the community that you just met into a home league community environment? Like, how do you get it to the point where it's not just so sterile? Like, I know that fantasy football has become big business, right? And so a lot of people are just looking to try to make money. But beyond that, how do you make the experience one that allows you to enjoy it, whether you made money or not? Because that's the thing that's going to keep me coming back to a league. If I'm just in a league and the only excitement for me is I win a prize at the end, that's not going to be enough for me to want to stay with that league, because I can win a prize in any league. Like, I'm good at this. I don't lose every year. Like, I'm winning more than I'm losing, or else I probably wouldn't be doing this thing, right? Yeah. So it's like, if I know that, then I can go and find that anywhere. But what's the experience like on draft day? If we're not live drafting, if we're not in front of each other, is there banter? Are we talking about it after it's over? Are we making fun of other people and their draft picks? I'm in Thor Nystrom's 60 man college football league, right?
Yeah.
And he hasn't done it in a couple of weeks, so at least I haven't seen it. But there's one of the players in there that does matchups. And he just makes fun of me because I haven't been doing well because the core of my team was Clemson players and Clemson hasn't been doing well. So, like, he makes fun of it. I love it. I think that's the greatest part. Like, have fun with it. Make whatever your league is, turn it into a home league feel. And if you do that, then the money won't matter. The prizes won't matter. You'll get the enjoyment out of it. And then when you win, it's the added bonus. And that's what I love.
I love it. And you bring up a great point too. You know, that Thor league, it's not a home local league. You're not getting together for a live draft, right? But there's still ways you can make a league fun, even if you're across the country. And it's that banter. It's you know, the breakdown videos. It's poking fun at people. There's just so much fun that fantasy can bring. I love it. So for you, you know, you mentioned earlier kind of growing up, obviously you kind of went down the path of journalism. Was that your plan from the beginning growing up as a kid? You want to be a journalist, or was there other things that you wanted to do when you grew up?
I mean, everybody had all of the little, you know, whatevers, but I always wanted to be a writer. Okay. Like I always wanted to write stories. I'm a creative. So I always wanted to create stories. I wanted to make movies. I still do. I want to do shows and create. I'm big on creation. And so early on, it was writing, and that's a passion of mine that I still have today. But I also understand that writing was my passion early because that was the way that imagery was done. The more access we got to, the more access that we had to creating visual images, and it became easier and easier for you and I to create visual images, the more I wanted to do with the visual space. And so I still love writing, but I really love creating things that people can see. And so that's been my kind of my North Star ever since I was in high school. I went to college to be a journalism major. I majored in English because the school that I went to didn't have a journalism major. And then I realized I probably should go to a school with a journalism major. But when you come from a background that doesn't know a lot about college, you don't know. And so when I learned more, I said, hey, let me get to a school that has a journalism major. I got to a school with a journalism major and realized that journalism was more than just writing. And so I learned every aspect of journalism. And that's what's allowed me to steadily over the last 20 years, like inch my way up in the business. And luckily I don't look super old. So people aren't trying to throw me out with the oldies, you know, because I'm 45 years old and tell me, you know, this is a young man's game. Well, I know some 28-year-olds in the game. They look like they've been in the game for 30 years. It's like, I don't know what you're doing, buddy, but you know, have a little bit more grace with it. But yeah, I enjoy it. And so from that passion as a kid of writing and telling stories, I've been able to, you know, carve out this path that I've never quite gotten too far away from that.
I love it. Now, what are the biggest, you know, lessons and takeaways you've taken away over the years during your professional journey?
The number one is what I was talking about earlier. Don't let people diminish what you've become an expert in, right? And I think a lot of this, for me, this is going to be a hot button topic, but a lot of this for me kind of came to light with the Ryan Clark situation. If a doctor told me, hey, you don't quite know what you're talking about because you didn't go to school to be a doctor, you didn't do all this, nobody would say a word. But now you expect Ryan Clark of God knows how many years of football experience, practical experience inside the room, and then all of the same stuff that Peter Schrager has done, right? To not look at Peter Schrager and go, hey, you don't quite understand because you weren't on the inside. And people go, well, that's stupid. You don't have to have played football to know football as well. Well, why not? Like, I think that you don't have to play football in order to know football as well as someone else that does. but you're not going to give the person that does at least the benefit of the doubt that they might know more. That seems weird to me. And so I tell people all the time, don't let people on the outside deter you from your knowledge. I started playing sports at a super early age. I played sports. I had to learn it. I had to understand it. I had to love it. I had to make it a part of me. I spent all of my youth and all of my best physical and probably most in tune brain power years filling it with football knowledge. And because of that, I've been able to carve a niche out in my life as a professional that is surrounded by football, not dumb jock stuff. Like, you have to be smart, you have to be intelligent, you have to be articulate, all of those things in this space in order to survive. So I don't care what it is you do. You could be a skateboarder, you can be an artist, you can be a painter, you can be a rapper. Like, you don't have, if you've spent that requisite 100,000 hours of time learning your craft, try to find a way to become vocational at that and make it into something that you spend your life, you know what I'm saying, doing. I love the fact that somebody was nerd enough to start loving the statistics of football, and then they started fantasy football or fantasy sports, and then they made a world of it. I love the Matthew Berry story, right? The fact that he is essentially the godfather of fantasy football. It's one of the reasons why I rock with his platform. It's one of the reasons why I respect him as a person. He's never out here claiming to be the end all to be all of sports knowledge. He doesn't even like the fact that he's a star. He doesn't like that fact. He's just a guy who loves football and loves playing fantasy and has realized and understands how to manipulate those things in his favor. Like, everyone should want to do that. And so you have to have a genuine love and you have to have a genuine amount of requisite knowledge in order to do so. That is what I continue to try to give out to people as game. Like, if you have a love for something, find a way to do it. And most importantly, and you probably know this as well, don't wait for someone else to start calling you about going to work for them. Cultivate your own thing, and people will see it and go, oh, I like that. Everything that I got, everything that I have right now in media came because I cultivated my own thing, and someone saw it and went, I like that. Like, when I write, I was writing and doing write-ups long before I ever started writing for publications. And when I don't write for publications, I still make it a point to do write-ups and put them somewhere so that people can see them. Because I want to always be working on my craft, and I know that there's somebody somewhere looking, and if the opportunity is right, then I can take advantage of it.
I mean, that's a fantastic message. You know, every ounce of that. I was just going to ask, what advice would you have for people that are aspiring to get, into more fantasy content or go into the fantasy industry? But I mean, that probably covers all of that. Would you say?
For sure. I would also tell them to find your own voice, find your own voice, find your own lane. Don't say stuff just to get a reaction, because that's not what I'm talking about. But don't be afraid to stand on your square if you have a thought process much different than everybody else. This year, last year I said, hey, I know everyone has fallen in love with wide receivers in fantasy, but running backs still run the show in fantasy. I deemed last year beforehand the year of the running back, and last year running backs dominated. This year, running backs are dominating. At the end of the day, you gotta put a point out there, and you gotta be willing to stand on it, even if it goes directly in the face of what everyone else in the industry says. And if you do that, then even if you're wrong, people will respect the fact that you were willing to stand up and put your name on it and put your face in front of it.
That's great. No, that's really good. Now, you do obviously, analysis for college and NFL. How does how does the college analysis break down for you when it comes to just how, what you enjoy, with that analysis compared to NFL?
Well, I think one of the things I love about college analysis is that it gives me a chance to be a GM, right? Like when I think about some of my goals as an adult have been to be the person in charge of the personnel, right? I think I know one of my gifts as a coach is my ability to identify talent. And so and I think that it's something that I've been able to do in other realms as well. I just kind of recognize what can make somebody special in a particular space. And so that's kind of appeasing that part of me with college sports, because there's a lot of people out there that will tell you that there's only 25 people in the draft. Go and look around at most people's draft content, and their draft content is the same 25 people that everybody else is talking about. Oh, I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. There's 7 rounds in the draft. And then there's a bunch of people that's going to be taken in free agency. So I want to be able to tell you about those other things. My good friend Emery Hunt in Football Game Plan, we have like minds on that. He has cultivated the Football Game Plan draft guide. I help him and I'm an advisor with him as he does that draft guide every single year. Over 1,000 people that we look at, that we're analyzing, that we're evaluating, because we know that football is more than just the NFL. It's college, it's Canadian, it's the UFL now. It's the European League that's burgeoning over there. And so we want to be able to give people information that they can use beyond. And I always have an advantage when it comes to fantasy and drafting rookies. So if you're into dynasty, you probably want to be into the college draft and more college draft nicks. You want to be able to see that crossover that happens when you're trying to get a person and project them from college to the NFL, because you need to go in and draft these rookies to put on your team.
Yeah, that's a great point too. For me, the NFL draft as a kid was like, second to Christmas. Like, it was special day growing up when they used to have it, Saturday and Sunday. I'd watch the whole thing, and just as a kid. And I've always loved the NFL draft. And you're right, when you know college football, and if you love the draft, that sets you up for knowing all these breakouts. We have we're in a season right now where people are coming off the bench, people are coming deep off of a practice squad, and they might become relevant down the stretch in a fantasy season. The average person in your home league doesn't know who they are, but if you're paying attention to dynasty content, if you're paying attention to college, you know who those players are. So you specifically have an advantage when it comes to winning a fantasy league, because you know these players and you know their origins, you know their journeys. So that's great. And it's great that people are out there doing that. I love the kind of the cross, content, doing both college and NFL. We need people out there like you, bringing the information for consumers.
Well, the truth is that if you're trying to make a living in this, in the media world, if you're only doing one thing, then you are rolling the dice, right? Like you're hoping that doesn't dry up. You're hoping that that's enough to sustain you. Again, I told you, I come from the journalist, hardcore down in the trenches world. Like I would write for multiple publications as a stringer in order to pull in a little money from everywhere. So it's never been lost on me. And I think that the ones who are the most successful in media are the guys and the girls, who came from writing for a publication, then was on air talent, cultivated their own podcast or radio show, and they were doing all of them simultaneously, right? And so you would see Tony Kornheiser writing his column. He would be on his radio show, and then eventually he was on PTI as well. And so you're like, okay, this journalist knows that you have to be able to pull these different revenue streams in order to be viable. And I think because I come from the world of, hey, I'm giving you game from real football, not just from statistics. It allows me to be able to be an analyst and talk about football just in discussing the game. It allows me to be able to discuss fantasy. It allows me to be able to talk about college and these other leagues. And that's how I try to keep myself relevant until somebody wants to come and say, hey, coach, we want you to just be here with us exclusively doing this. And when that happens, I'm sure the money will be good enough for me to go, hey, yeah, I'll be more than happy to only do things for you and nobody else for you forever and ever.
I love it. Now, what's been the most rewarding part of your journey professionally?
Just as an athlete, the meeting and the relationships that I've been able to build through the game. Like I always tell people, if you are an athlete, then you are setting yourself up for a skeleton key into relationships and conversations that you don't even know that's going to happen yet. Just because I have some type of tie with someone who might have been a receiver or might have been a tight end or might have played football at whatever level, might have been a basketball player. Like I can lean on those types of experiences, and they've opened up doors for me that I would have never imagined when you told me that, hey, you got to watch where you're going and wear your hat straight growing up in Cabrini Green, Chicago.
Nice. No, yeah, great message for sure. Now let's dive through some rapid fire questions. Just a few questions. Give me a quick answer as to what. If we'll start with what are your favorite hobbies and activities outside of sports?
Karaoke. Karaoke is my number one favorite hobby. I love to do it. Every city that I ever go to, I'm trying to find a place to sing karaoke.
Do you have a go-to song?
No, I can sing, so I just...
Okay, any song. Okay.
Yeah. I'm trying to impress the crowd. That's it.
I love it. All-time favorite TV show.
All-time favorite TV show. Wow. Either Martin or The Fresh Prince. You know what? I'm not going to teeter. Fresh Prince.
Okay. Martin was pretty darn good, though. How about an all-time favorite movie?
All-time favorite movie right now, number one for me is still Interstellar. But it waffles between Interstellar and Inception.
Okay.
Every other week, I'm like, it could be the other one.
Okay, that's some deep stuff. How about an all-time favorite sports movie?
All-time favorite sports movie is, a lot of people say Remember the Titans, but I still contend that the football in Remember the Titans wasn't that great. I go back to more nostalgic for me as a kid. In football, I think it's probably the most accurate I've seen in what happens behind the scenes, the program.
I love the program. That's a good one. How about an all-time favorite food, snack, beverage combo?
Food, snack, beverage combo. Okay. Nothing's beating Southwestern egg rolls, number one. Like if you're just talking about a quick snack, those are the joint. If you're saying, hey, snack combination with a beverage, a good beer, a good beer with a good burger, you really can't go wrong.
How about a candy?
Candy, Swedish Fish.
Yeah, well, I was going to ask you what's the deal with the Swedish Fish? That's just your thing, huh?
Yeah, I love Swedish Fish. I can't even remember. I can't remember how it started. I just woke up one day and loved just Swedish Fish. And I don't even like all of the gummy candies like that either. I just like and it's only the small ones. If you give me the big ones or the multicolored ones,
yeah,
not really a big fan of those. The small original ones, because I think they're not as gummy. You can chew them a little easier. I just like them. I don't know what happened.
I mean, they're good. They're really good. How about an all-time favorite band, artist, or musician?
All-time favorite band, artist, or musician. Okay, Prince. Prince, I would go with all-time favorite artist, musician.
Okay. Was the Prince halftime show? Was that the best halftime show ever?
The absolute best halftime show ever.
Yeah, I agree for sure. How about a favorite vacation you've been on?
Oh wow. So I grew up poor, so I didn't go on vacations until I turned 40, and then my best friend Jeff and Denise, we all started going on vacations, and we went on an all-inclusive to Antigua.
Ooh, nice.
And it was just so beautiful and nice, and when you haven't been on a lot of vacations, every vacation feels like it's the best one, right? And so I'm still looking forward to adding to that. But that was such an enjoyable time. Great friends. We went as a group. It was phenomenal.
I love it. Now, how about a bucket list travel destination?
I have a few, but Tokyo is
nice,
right up there on the list. Tokyo, Australia, Sydney, and Ireland. I want to go to Ireland because every Irish person I meet goes, "You should go to Ireland. They would love you there." I want to find out.
I love it. Okay, a few quick more. NFL MVP prediction at this point.
NFL MVP. If I had to predict who's going to win it, I'd say early, but I give the early run into Dak Prescott.
Okay, how about a fantasy MVP?
Fantasy MVP. Gosh, that's a good one. I know I'm overthinking this, but Bijan Robinson.
Okay, yeah. I mean, that's a good one.
Yeah.
How about a Super Bowl prediction?
Super Bowl prediction, wide open, but I think it'll be the Eagles once again. And it's kind of a crapshoot in the AFC. So I'll say the Bills finally find a way to get there. Eagles, Bills, and Jalen Hurts once again slays another person that everybody thinks is the best quarterback in the league.
That would be impressive for sure. Now, okay, you covered the Giants a bit. Name the year the Giants will win their next Super Bowl.
It will be February 5th of Neverwary.
I was gonna say we'll dial this back, we'll get that prediction, but that's gonna be a while.
It's not anytime soon, and it's not as wild. It's not as far fetched for them to win one as people think. Their roster is not as bad as people think. There's just some management and the way it's employed that seems to be a little off.
Yeah, well, it takes a while, right? Well, only one team wins the title, so it can be a bit. But hopefully they'll put it together. There's a fan base there that probably wants that to happen. Now we'll conclude this here. What are you most grateful for? And then if there's anybody out there that has been a big impact on you during your journey in sports media, give them a shout out.
I'm most grateful for work ethic. I'm most grateful for the work ethic that I think that my family instilled in me. Shout out to my late grandmother, Claudia Clemons. She was a worker. She worked for everything that she had, for everything that we had, even when we didn't have a lot. It was always, hey, hard work. And I think that the ability to grind is not something that is just inherent in everyone. I really do feel like you have to have something about you that just allows you to endure. And clearly our family has it. I want to send a big shout out to my brother, who has been like the backbone of the family. My entire immediate family lives in Tampa, Florida. So anytime anything happens, he's the person that's there. I'm the person that people call and, might ask for whatever, but he's there on the floor, every day, taking care of things, being annoyed, all that kind of stuff. And I don't think there's anyone that's been better to have that job than him. I don't know if I could have done what he's done, and I'm forever grateful for him and all that he's meant to not only me as a little brother, but to our family as a whole.
That's beautiful, man. I loved it. Love to hear it. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode. Can you tell listeners and viewers where they can find your work and connect with you?
You can find me on all social media at Gene Clemons, and thank you again for having me. I appreciate any time I get a chance to just come and talk. Definitely let's chop it up again for sure. But you can catch me at Gene Clemons anywhere. YouTube channel, Coach Gene Clemons. Also YouTube channel at New York Giants on the SI if you want to check out the Giant Issue podcast. Everything else is Fantasy Life, Fantasy Life, Fantasy Life, FantasyLife.com. Make sure you go and get that Tier 2 subscription. As a matter of fact, you can get a free year of Fantasy Life right now because we've partnered with some people over at Perplexity, and they're offering right now a free offer. If you go over there, you'll see all of that over there at Fantasy Life. Come join us. You won't be disappointed, I promise.
I love it. Well, thanks for coming on, Coach. Appreciate you, man.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Football Unlimited podcast. Until next time, be sure to follow and subscribe to all of FFU's social media accounts for daily content.